Real quick, ignition. Unlike deep practice where it's a deliberate act, ignition is more of an unconscious thing. It's that passion I talked about. And once you get that passion lit in a wrestler, it ignites your unconscious mind. So your capacity to learn and to improve greatly increases. Roger Bannister is a great example, breaking the 4-minute mile in 1954. Prior to that, science thought it was physiologically impossible. Within 3 years of that, 17 more runners broke the 4-minute mile as well. Why? Because they had that passion. They knew it's possible. I can do it. So they got creative. They figured out how to train harder, how to push their bodies farther, and how to reach their goals. So that's a quick example of that. Another thing it does, this is a pretty cool study Gary McPherson did on 157 randomly selected children through high school. And they measured them on long-term commitment, short-term commitment, and medium-term commitment. And what you see is that the longer-term, the students that had a longer-term commitment had higher performances, even with lower practice. With higher practice, had much higher performances over the 4-year span.
So that's saying that those who started out with a low practice weekly stuck through it longer.
No, this is saying, so there's 3 areas we measured. There's basically 3 groups of students, there are 157 students. The students that said in the beginning that they have a long-term commitment to music, I want to play it forever. The students say I want to play through high school, maybe college. The students that said I'm not sure if I'm even going to finish high school. That's what the three different commitment levels mean. And the low means the students that didn't practice very much and went in this order. So the long-term commitment still outperformed everyone else, even with low practice. The higher their practice got, their average weekly practice got, the higher the performance went in every area, but the longer-term commitment, the people with more ignition, had way higher off the charts. But it's interesting to see that even with low practice and higher commitment, they still nearly outperform, or they still outperform the low commitment group and almost outperform the deep commitment group, just because they had that passion and that ignition occur. So it's pretty interesting study. Just bring awareness to what that can do. That's all I'm trying to do. So master coaching, a couple key points is that your job is to guide that myelin down the right path, make him build the right circuits, and that's why you're there. Like, no, that left foot needs to come parallel with the leg, and then you drive. You know, not letting the little thing slide. That's part of coaches, why we get nitty gritty, right? That you make them do it perfectly. Drills are perfect, and they get it right. And you also got to teach that love for the game and help with that ignition. So you can look at the 4 virtues of master coaches based on from this book. There's many others, but this really is the top 4 would be is that knowledge base and ability to relate. Kind of goes back to relationships, like I talked about. The perspectiveness that not all athletes deserve the same treatment or need the same treatment. It sounds kind of weird to hear at first, but don't treat them all the same. Some people don't need as much reinforcement. Some people need to be babysat a little bit more. If you understand what that means, that it depends on the athlete what they need, and you got to understand that as a coach. And then that GPS reflex. That's basically, again, guiding you down that right path, saying, now step your leg up, now you finish the double leg, now you transition to the half, and then that's a good way to coach to improve this production. And again, that empathy, good morals, and real connection. Give you another second if you want to copy that down or something, and then we'll move on to some mental skills. Good there? Anyone need another second or so?
Are you going to include the PowerPoint?
I can work with Mike and get that. Let's see. Any questions right now on I know is this not a new concept to anybody? Has someone heard of myelin production or how the neurons fire? Kind of familiar to some people. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, about the brain, the mind-body connection, how the muscle memory works, how we can incorporate imagery to improve that, some different ways to do that. But question.
I was just wondering, does that master coaching actually take place through the deep practice as well, or does it actually end with the ignition?
It's that GPS reflex. It's when I think that goes back to knowing when, knowing your athlete, what they need. It can. Well, it doesn't have to. But here's my big takeaways. I think if you just bring your athletes to the awareness that you can build talent, you can improve those pathways, you can get faster, you can get smoother, and then having these skills in your back pocket on how to help them do that. I think that's a key takeaway. It's something I can even communicate with my coaches. I'm like, hey, check what I read, coach. And this is why I'm always pissed off when we're drilling gut wrenches, because I'm slipping off this left side or whatever I'm doing, and he's like, okay, I understand what you're getting at. Like, maybe you can help me out and show me exactly where my feet are, and just help me through this step a little bit until I get it right. So that's something that I use as an athlete to communicate with my coach, and vice versa. Coaches do the same with their athlete. But hey, this is why you're screwing it up, and this is why you need to keep working. So it's just another way you can communicate, improve your skill set. All right, so I'm going to move on to mental skills now, and I want to start out with it's a 4-minute video. It's a Navy SEALs training video. We got to give a Navy guy a shout out here. But the reason I like this is, one, I'm military, so I want to try to throw out the military some cool stuff anytime I can. But it does a great job of showing us the snapshot of the scientific principles behind what goes on with the brain under performance, under pressure. When you're reacting to fear, a lot of the same things that we do during wrestling matches, during high pressure situations. So during this video, try to pick out what you think might relate to wrestling. We'll talk about it afterwards, and then we can go on with the mental skills portion.
There's no better place to explore how fear affects the brain than here at the Navy SEALs Special Warfare Command in San Diego, California. Recruits are put through specialized training to change the way their brains react to fear.
We introduce our students almost from day one to absolute chaos.
Successful recruits seem better able to adapt their brains to the demands of the job.
It's not really necessarily the physical people who get through there. There have been Olympic athletes who dropped out of training. And there's this 140-pound farm kid from Nebraska who'd never seen the ocean before, and he graduated. Why is that?
With demand for special forces increasing, the Navy continues to develop brain training techniques to see if they can improve the pass rate. After consulting with experts, they came up with a groundbreaking mental toughness program, a set of techniques to boost the trainees' ability to control fear, even in the most extreme situations.
You guys need to stay fired up while you're out there. The pain, the cold, and all that stuff. It's going to eat away at you, but you got to keep going.
The techniques that we're most interested in are what I call the big four: goal setting, mental rehearsal, self-talk, and arousal control.
Scientists think goal setting works by assisting the frontal lobes. As the brain's supervisor, the frontal lobes are responsible for reasoning and planning. Concentrating on specific goals lets the brain bring structure to chaos and keeps the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, in check. The second technique, mental rehearsal or visualization, is continually running through an activity in your mind. So when you try it for real, it comes more naturally.
You practice in your mind first and imagine and rehearse how you might do in these stressful situations. The next time in reality you're faced with these situations is actually, in effect, the second time you face it. So you'll have less of a stressful reaction.
The third technique, self-talk, helps focus the trainee's thoughts. The average person speaks to themselves at a rate of 300 to 1,000 words a minute. If these words are positive instead of negative, can do instead of can't, they help override the fear signal coming from the amygdala.
The frontal lobes are always on.
So it's very easy to think about something difficult, something bad, like I'm going to fail. What am I doing here? I didn't practice enough.
The final technique, arousal control, is centered on breathing. Deliberate, slow breathing helps combat some of the effects of panic. Long exhales, in particular, mimic the body's relaxation process and get more oxygen to the brain so it can perform better. On its own, arousal control wouldn't work. The amygdala sends out such a powerful signal, it's tough to suppress if we're still feeling fearful. But combining the 4 techniques made a big difference to the trainee SEAL's pass rate, increasing it from 1/4 to 1/3. The idea of pushing boundaries may not be new, but here is positive proof that you can train your brain, and now science knows how.
Now, these Navy guys can get it, anybody can, right?
You showed that about the SEALs. I just want to say this. Anybody in here ever read the book Lone Survivor? The movie doesn't count, by the way. The book. There was something he said in the very beginning that stuck with me, and I used that at camp. And it was how he got to rebel with it. The commandant told him to focus on the present, the right now. Don't think about the past. Don't anticipate the future. Think about what's happening right now. That was pretty interesting. Absolutely.
Yeah, so what kind of things stood out to you as far as wrestling? What's applicable from that Navy SEAL video? Anything?
Breathing,
Breathing?
goal setting,
All things that we're trying to teach our young wrestlers. And what's that?
all things.
Yeah, pretty much. I think self-talk is a big one. Is that people don't realize that everyone has negative self-talk, and that you can control that. That's something we'll get into, how to use a mental filter to overcome that. Goal setting is huge. It's shown to be, or various different studies, the most effective mental skill or tool to improve performance, and it's because it induces behavior change. It actually gets you on the path to doing something every day and every week towards a long-term goal, and that's done through effective goal setting, through short-term goals and daily action plan. So a lot of these are the same. Building confidence, that's a lot of self-talk, energy management, same thing as arousal control, controlling your breathing, understanding what your body's doing and when, and how to get back to where you want to be. Controlling your attention, didn't talk specifically about that in the video, but it goes hand in hand with energy management. But it's significant enough, I think, that, like you said, you got to focus. Where's your attention at every moment? It needs to be at that moment. You need to prepare for the future, but your mind doesn't need to be there at that moment. Makes sense. And goal setting and imagery or visualization. These skills go with any sport, any endeavor you do. You can be a mathematician, and you need to be able to have good goal setting. You need to be able to visualize a problem and how to solve it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. By learning these skills and learning them well, you can improve your ability in any endeavor. All right, so let's talk real quick. Talk about peak performances and maybe your worst performances, or you can talk from an athlete perspective or a coach. What do you see? We don't have to go right down this list, but let's talk about some of the aspects of peak performance. So when you see an athlete out there doing well, what's going through his head or what's going through your head when you were a competitor or if you still do compete. So peak performances, what's going on in your mind at your best? What were you thinking?
They're not thinking, they're just reacting.
Okay, so it's effortless, it's they just pull the trigger, they just go, they just do it. You don't have to think too much, okay? What else?
High degree of confidence. You can't stop here, so
Yeah, you're confident.
Very few negative thoughts are reading. Real focus and confidence.
Okay. How about energy levels? Physically, how are you feeling? Performance.
Relaxed.
You feel good, feel relaxed, feel composed. Nothing can stop you. All right, that's great. I think that hits a lot of what this is prompting for. How about maybe when you choke or a worse performance?
Hold
one move that you did wrong in your head.
Okay.
So repeatedly comes back even though the match is progressing.
Yeah,
It's
ruminating for
something
one mistake. Can't let go, can't move forward, can't fail forward, right?
A tightness, right? You're just kind of very immoved. You're not like panic, but you're just like just gonna hold this.
Right.
You don't realize that you're giving up X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So you're tense, your muscle tension's high, your ability to think or shift or to overcome something really isn't there. Okay. Confused maybe.
I've had kids lose matches because they were more worried about the next round than
Yeah.
round.
Oh yeah. That's one of the hardest things even still.
Like true focus on who I have to rest.
Right. No, exactly. It's getting. I like to try to get myself out of who do I got next? It's who got me. Who has me, and that it doesn't matter who I have. I'm going to execute in the moment and think about what I need to be thinking about and get to that. Use my routine and different skills that I have to get to that consistent level every time.
A lack of pre-match or a lack of pre-planning.
Yep.
You can look at someone getting ready to go out on the mat and you know that they're not going to have a peak performance just simply by the way that they're preparing for the contest.
And that goes back to knowing your athlete. Some may be different. Some may sit there. Well, let's go. Some like you see me. I'm usually drilling a little bit. I'm after it. I'm a little higher level, but everyone should know. Every athlete should know where they need to be for optimal performance. We'll talk more about that. Their readiness level. But yeah, that's good. What do you think is the real you, or during performance, which is the real you? When you're during peak performance, when nothing's distracting you, or when interference comes in, right? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. When you choke and when you have a bad performance, that's not the real you. It's things getting in your way. You're thinking about girlfriend back home. You're thinking about that math test or the next match, or you can't let go of the double leg you just gave up. Those are all distractions that keep the real you from coming out. So I think the idea behind mental skills and preparing a good routine and some of those things that we're going to learn here and go over is that
sometimes those distractions actually benefit you.
Yep.
By taking the pressure focus off a little bit on something else. And there's some really neat stories about those.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples of ways to either refocus. A distraction happens and oh yeah, I need to be doing this, and that might help you out. Or maybe prior to a match, it helps you forget about the pressure a little bit. And understanding where you are and where you need to be for performance is the key, and just helping the real you come out as much as possible. Distractions will happen. Like I said, it's human nature to have those thoughs. 300 to 1,000 words per minute. Average person thinks. That's what the point of this is get those the right thoughts in the right time. So the thought-performance interaction is that a thought leads to a feeling or an emotion, which leads to a physiological change in your body. Increased heart rate, muscle tension, decreased tension. It can go either way. And that physiology affects your performance. So there's a direct interaction between this. So again, if you have that initial thought, I don't want to fail, oh, this sucks, I get the return to state champ, that's going to lead to these kinds of emotions, frustration, fear, maybe anxiety. That will lead to higher muscle tension, cortisol, that chemical in your brain where it's going to slow your performance, it's going to decrease your performance, and then it's cyclical, so it'll keep getting worse and worse and worse if you don't interrupt it. The positive thought interaction, hey, I'm going to nail this. This is my chance. I'm a state champ. Whatever you're going through your mind is positive. That's going to lead to effortless, positive emotions. You're in control. Lower muscle tension, controlled heart rate. Because you're still going to have a higher heart rate, but it's not going to be sporadic. You're going to be in control of it, understanding what's going on. Serotonin, which is that natural runner's high, if you will. That's what happens when all this stuff starts happening in a good way, and that's improved performance. All right. Any questions on that mindset, on the thought interaction? Pretty straightforward. So there's also two different types of mindsets that you need to have: a trusting mindset and a training mindset. The training mindset, that's building myelin, right? That's in that deep practice. That's blood, sweat, tears. You're active. You're analyzing. You're figuring it out. You're writing stuff down. You're being very critical. You're getting it right. When you get into a competition, you switch to the trusting mindset. You're effortless. You're not thinking about the steps to a setup or what you need to do to win this tournament. You're in the moment. You're trusting in your training and your coaching. You're going to let it happen because you trained and you're the man and you're ready. You're going to just go. You're going to pull the trigger. That's how it should feel in a trusting mindset. All right, so the first real skill we'll go over is building confidence. Again, we kind of had this discussion, but a lot of people think you're either confident or you're not. And that's just not true, because confidence is not a result of what happens to you. It's how you think, how you react to what happens to you. It's how you build confidence or maintain confidence. There's certain ways to do that. The biggest one I kind of hit on earlier a little bit is the mental filter or selective perception. It's a skill that you have a lot of inputs and different types of information throughout the day, throughout a match, negative, positive, a lot of different things that happens to you. It works much like a coffee filter. All these things come into your filter, but you have the ability to pick what you want to focus on and let only the positive come out, or mostly the positive. Some negatives still might get out, but you have the ability to choose what to focus on. And that goes back to the attitude that you have. You can choose your attitude and choose the way you approach every day. Belief statements. The self-fulfilling prophecy. Anybody ever heard of that? Couple. Hey, I'll tell you, if you get your athletes to believe in what they're doing, set their goals, and say it every day, and write it down, and tell their friends, they're much more likely to reach their goals and to achieve what they set out to do. That's not me just saying that. There's research behind that. Just by simply believing it and having that statement out there that, I am a 2016 Greco-Roman Olympic champion standing right here. It just hasn't happened yet. I'm going to be the man, and I am the man. So that's a belief statement. I say it to myself every day, and it's going to go right into how I succeed throughout the whole process. Positive self-talk. Again, hey, 300 to 1,000 words, in a minute. Come on. I mean, that's focus on the positive self-talk. Don't let the negative come in. As soon as you see that negative or hear that negative self-talk happening, you can interrupt that. You have a refocus technique that I'll cover here in a minute, and get back on that positive track. And interpreting setbacks, that a failure or a lot, losing a match, or getting a bad grade in school, that doesn't define who you are. Some people believe that, especially the people with fixed mindsets, or believe that personality and talent is fixed and not easily developed. One failure defines, I guess I'm not good enough. So that's something that you need to be careful with, and making sure that people don't overly rely on their natural born ability, because if they make one mistake, then they're automatically a failure, because that's how they're born. So that's something that people need to understand, athletes must understand, is that, hey, mistakes will happen, setbacks will happen, failures will happen, but they're not failures unless you quit and you don't persevere.
What are your feelings about putting your kids in different adverse situations, such as you're late? Because when we go through adverse situations, like they don't have their anger, they start getting negative thoughts. Late to win, you go on international tours, times change.
Yeah.
Teaching them to adjust to adverse situations. Stakes are just small. We're going to need to cut it close. The more you do that, the more they learn how to react and look at things positive.
Yeah.
And failing forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's resilience, that's ability to bounce back in adversity. I love that. And I mean, if you can work ways to train that, we do that at the World Class Athlete Program still. We have 12 aspiring Olympians in the room, and we bring in sports psychology consultants to work with us that fill our cognitive space. They give us overload of with information, try to get us rattled. We still have to execute moves and try to do it as smoothly as possible. And so we use that in our training. But yeah, the bus is late, weigh-ins are, I'm not going to have my time to cut weight. I might as well not even try. That's the time they say, you know what, I'm going to start jumping rope on the bus. Do what I got to do to make my goal.
I just got a question. I'm just asking you if there's any research in this, but there's a part of sports psychology I haven't seen here, and that's like your drive. Like, for example, if you're part of a program or even a name that has a tradition that you're expected in, or you can't let your school down, and you get big performances out of people that probably are not capable of doing it, but they do it through this, I don't know what you would call it, they can't like get down on our level of coach. So is there any kind of mental way to, any way to manipulate my kids into getting that, whether it be our club name or for my coach or, you know, your brother was a state champion, it's in your pedigree, because I think that's a very important part of this.
Exactly. I think that kind of goes back to that self-fulfilling prophecy that could be for a team too. Is that, you know, one of my teammates went to Oklahoma State, Russell there, he's an All-American there. He just, you know, that's why he went there. He's like, you got, you know, I'll be an All-American. If I go there, I gotta be. That's what everyone is, you know. And so that goes in that belief. It teaches. It's a system that teaches you. But just because you have a new club, maybe, or hey, I've had a, you know, I just took over a losing club, whatever it is. You set that new goal. You build that legacy. But that goes to motivation and underlying factors that, you know, being autonomous and having self-worth and a lot of those things that individual drives. But it goes back to that bigger picture where people then develop intrinsic motivation from it. So it can't just be, you got to be good because good, we're expecting you to. If they still don't buy into it, if they don't have that intrinsic motivation, they're probably not going to reach that level. Extrinsic motivation works to get them going, but then that goes back to ignition, intrinsic motivation to really get them to that elite level.
You were talking about at practice, you know, the sports psychs guys come in and fill your heads with things, and then you have to execute. What are some examples of things that they like fill your head with, and then you have to execute? You know, underhook to a throw, or can you give us some examples?
Yeah. So one, it's funny because the last doctor up here was talking about counting down from 100 by 3. So we'd have to hit. We were shadow wrestling, and we're supposed to be taking shots every 3 seconds and counting down by 3 out loud. And everyone in the room was doing it. So every 3 seconds you have to hit some kind of shot, a high dive for Greco, an arm spin, but you're just by yourself. And then we started at 100. They went for about 30 seconds, and then we like talked about it, assessed what we did, and realized that as I started thinking about what number I was on, I was missing time count. That was 5 seconds. Oh crap! You know, high dive. And now I'm thinking, now I'm starting to figure out to count again. Now I'm getting pissed off, call myself an idiot for forgetting 2 things, and then I realized I've been standing there for 10 seconds. You know, so it was a good little session that we did just to learn how to deal with cognitive space. So when your cognitive space is filled in a match, you're wrestling. People are yelling at you, the crowd, the coach is yelling something, the ref is trying to tell you something. You have a lot of different factors. It's much like counting down by 3. It's replicating the situation. And so your ability, once you practice it, your ability improves to deal with that and to execute every 3 seconds and maintain that count.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So you're on the clock for 30.
Ish,
you know, whatever.
You guys can, yeah.
And you have to count down from 3 out loud. 100. So 100, 99, 98.
No, 197.
Okay.
188. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to make sure that, you know, when I take this back, that I'm not doing it wrong.
Right.
So it's counted down by 3s, and you're taking a shot every 3 seconds during that time frame.
So I'm guesstimating time on my own.
Okay.
So I have a lot of different things I'm doing in my mind. Just teaches you how to deal with that adversity if it does occur. Ideally, like we talked about, there's not much going on. Shake hand, boom, I'm off to it. I'm getting tilts. I'm working my legs out. I'm not even thinking. I'm just transitioning. It's smooth. But once stuff starts happening, that's when your cognitive space gets filled. And this is just a good drill. I mean, one of many that we do, but it's pretty cool to see the results once you practice it. All right, goal setting. I'm gonna skip the video. Well, let's talk about goal setting. Why is it important? What does goal setting do in a big picture for athletes?
You have a visualization of what you need to be doing, or what are you start thinking about what I need to do to get to X.
Okay.
That's the end.
So you plan. What's that?
Yeah, planning and focus.
Okay. Same kind of deal. Motivation.
Reason to practice.
Reason to practice. So motivation, reason to practice. Hey, I know that my goal is to beat such and such high school in 2 weeks. That's what I'm training for. What maybe something as a short-term goal. That may be an example. But it gives you that motivation, that drive, and I think we all kind of understand how goal setting works. You have to have a long-term goal, short-term goals in between. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on goal setting because I think a lot of you are pretty proficient, but I'll just go over the stats in case I might be missing one or two of them. Is that first you got to define what your long-term goal is. Second, capture your current status. And this is something that I think should be done at the beginning of the season and continually. So you spend, instead of going on a run one day, you take them in and you bring out a piece of paper and a pencil. And trust me, the guys will be excited, like, hey, I got a break today. But this is going to be so valuable for them, and it's going to help through the entire season. So you sit down where your strengths, where your weaknesses, where you need to improve, what can you rely on to get there as well. Then you create performance objectives, those daily actions that you're going to do. Fully commit, get feedback, and adjust, because goals change. Things happen throughout the year. You get really good at double leg, you don't need to work that anymore. You need to start working on your leg right defense. So then you adjust. How can I do that, coach? I got 6 weeks still until districts. Let's reevaluate my goals. So this is like this middle stuff is what a lot of people miss out on. A lot of them get the goal and they get, okay, I got two short-term goals. I want to be a state champ and I also want to be a regional and a district or a city champ or whatever you call it. But that misses the point of goal setting altogether. If it's not daily and you're getting feedback, then it's not going to work. You can say you set the goal, but you didn't really set and strive for your goals. So this is there's a lot of different formats, but here's one format. So you define where you want to go, you know where you're in state, you start back at the bottom where you are, and you build on it, and you work your way back to the top. Who knows what SMART goals are? What's SMART stand for? Sorry, someone speak up.
Specific, measurable, actionable,
Readable, timely, time-based. Alright, so I think we're all on the same board, same page there. Again, this takes you through step by step. This is a worksheet example of that you can give your students, have them fill out. Where am I now? Where can I improve? It requires you to fill out the information, really capture an accurate status, and create 3 or 4 objectives. Then you put it together. Back at the bottom again, your current status. Maybe physical, technical, mental improvements, and commitment. And then you have specific actions here for the long-term goal. And here's an example to be a state champ. First, I know I need to develop talent or improve my technique. I'm going to conduct deep practice daily. I seek expert coaching to solve challenges. I welcome the struggle and frustration of expanding my skill set. So by understanding that, I'm going to get into that deep practice consistently. I'm going to improve my skill set. And also that affirmation statement, I get better every day. It goes on, improve overall fitness, I run 10 miles a week, I do strength training 3 times a week. Specific, those are SMART goals there, right? It goes through mental toughness, how I'm going to do that. I'm going to practice my refocus technique. I'm going to integrate imagery into my practices. I'm going to stay 10 minutes extra and do shadow wrestling on my own, just to integrate the lessons of that day. And then staying committed, I'm going to post my goal sheets, I'm going to tell my friends, I'm going to have daily reminders that keep me on track to success. Any questions on goal setting? All right, and one, I created my own training log. One aspect of goal setting is keeping that daily track. So I write down what I do every day, especially leading up to a competition. Right? During long breaks, I might not write down what I'm doing every day, but especially in a 6 to 8 week train up for a big competition. I even brought my training log from the last tournament I did, the Military World Championships. I created myself. You can come up here and check it out afterwards, the kind of stuff I write down. But it prompts me to fill out specific information. It's not an empty notebook where I just, hey, I wrestled well, I headlocked this dude, I got gut wrenched one time. That's not very effective, right? But what research shows is that if you write something down, you increase your memory by 60% of that, whether it be notes from school or wrestling practice. So if you're not having your guys write stuff down, you're missing out on a lot of information. I don't know if you can see that, but this is an example I threw in here. 5 April 2013, this is leading up to the national tournament last year, to the U.S. Open. I have up there my long-term goal, the 2016 Olympic Greco-Roman champion. Today's goal, improve my gut and lift. My action steps, I'm going to drill a left sit-up, my lift setup, and I'm going to attempt it live. And I also have my action statement, I'm a beast. that's the mentality you need to have in parterre, because parterre is tough. It's hard to move someone, and it's hard to stop people from moving you when you're on bottom. You have to have a beast mentality down there. And I specifically trained that mentality that day. So that goes back into how often are you trained from the mental aspect of sport. I also like to have a timeline, just a snapshot. I just jot down when I have my practices, when my doctor appointment is, and when I'm going to get in my extra run. It just helps me kind of organize my day. I track how much sleep I got 9 hours that night. That's probably uncommon, but when I'm just training full time, then sleep is part of my training, and it's valuable. So I make sure I get enough. I also write down where I train, how much I weigh before and after. It doesn't have to be this specific, but I think it's important to capture. I have my 2 separate workouts. I write down how I did those, who I wrestled. I draw a little picture here. I can just seeing that picture. I can remember that day doing stupid lifts on that T-bone dummy. It hurts. It has 2x4s in it. It makes you bleed sometimes, but I remember doing that workout that day just by seeing that picture. I can think of it right now. So it's important. I also track what kind of food I eat. I don't always keep count on my calories, but I want to make sure I'm getting enough so I can prevent injury and help my eye movement when I get tested. Stuff like that. So I'm a little lacking in vitamin D maybe right now, but I can go back and I can actually assess. I can go back to my training log and see, hey, maybe I haven't been eating enough vegetables. I haven't taken vitamin D supplements. I know that. And I know in wrestling, indoor sports, vitamin D deficiencies are a lot higher than outdoor sports. So I was going to ask the doctor that.
The sun has vitamin D.
What's that?
The sun gives you vitamin D.
Right. So yeah, the sun activates it and all that. Down here, I have I call it fit, feelings, introspections, and thoughts. So just my thoughts of the day. Hey, what did I say? Conditioning feels awesome. I was more discouraged with my match with Pete, but I learned some key lessons. It goes on, but it captures kind of what I'm thinking, and then 3 specific areas where did I improve physically, technically, and mentally. So that's my snapshot. Mike made a great training log that I used through college. It was, I think, 2 full pages each day that we write out. I just made it a little shorter, 1 pager, and built that on top of all my other experiences, and this is what works best for me. So that's what I use now. Any questions on training logs? Do any coaches make you guys keep training logs or highly encourage them?
We do it all the time.
Yeah, I think it's important. Writing it down, and then even if you get a couple of the leaders on the team captain goes back to the locker room, he's jotting stuff down. That freshman coming in like, oh, what's he doing? Okay, I'm gonna do that. And it's effective.
You guys have a time set up that we do with ours. You guys have a time set up when a coach sits down and goes over the training along with you. In high school we do it because if so, sometimes it's a little forced activity, but as they see the fruits of the labor later on, it helps us put together the practice plans, things like that. But we schedule time with each one of the wrestlers to go through their training plans.
Yeah, and in high school, my coach did that. He was great with training log as well, and he had me, and with goal setting in particular. And I told him my goal in the beginning of the season was to come in early and stay late. And 3 weeks into the season, he's like, you came early once, and you stayed late 2 times. What's up, man? Like, you're right, and so he got me back on track. So it takes some of that reinforcement. I tell you, at this level now, it's a little more on the athlete to ask for it, because I think part of the training process to understand what we need a little bit more. But those youth athletes for sure, college athletes, I think for sure should give that feedback and work with their coaches, and I think elite athletes as well, all the way through the Olympic level. Constant feedback and evaluation. That's how goal setting works. You can't see everything yourself.
You guys are a little bit more self-driven than the high school.
Right. Yeah.
A little. It's probably a larger gap. So.
A little bit. All right. So, quick competition.
Speaking of writing the goals, I saw you do that like leading up to your performance. By the way, congratulations on the silver at Scissors.
Thank you.
And gold at Pan Am's. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Pan Am gold Greco.
Awesome. What do you write in your book, or did you write anything perhaps post-competition or during competition? Are you referring to it as you were going through matches or right after matches?
No, not the day off. The day after, I wrote in, I was like, took silver, here's my thoughts. Because, just like 5 years from now, I'm looking at it and like, I wonder what I was thinking after that night. And I look and I can't remember now what I was thinking. I was a little disappointed, but, it was again, part of that process. Because I had that goal, I lost by a point. And it was a close match. It was one to learn from, but it's all part of the process, leading toward that larger goal, that Olympic goal. And it just get better every day still. But yeah, try to capture it afterwards as well. But this is more just to keep you on track. I mean, really good with weight cutting, like a few days out, where I'm at, how many workouts I have left, and helps with the fine tuning as well. But like the day before the competition, I put it down. I don't think, at that point you're transitioning to that trusting mindset. So that's more of the training mindset. Any other questions? All right, 2 volunteers. Young coach and an old coach. All right, young coach. Oh, my favorite. Old. Nah, I'll take you. Let's go.
A young priest and a new priest.
All right, so.
I made us the old coach.
Who has a timer on the phone or something? All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to have you go first here. You're going to balance the stick on one finger here. And you're going to keep your eyes right on this yellow right here the entire time. So once you let go, that's his cue. That's his cue to start the timer. All right, so just don't hit the TV. Those push-ups.
Just on this first finger.
Yeah, so once you let go, he's going to start the timer. Wait 1 second. Timer ready? Yeah, we got timer ready. On you. What's time? 4.5 seconds. All right, let's see. Pressure's on. 4.5 seconds. Any finger, and just keep your focus right here on the edge. So I think we had a winner here. All right, we're gonna have a rematch. A quick rematch, but this time we're gonna do the same thing, but you're gonna focus on the top. So again, on you, once you have it ready. You won't look higher. Just focus. All you gotta do is keep your attention on the top. All right.
Give up. I trust you.
So again, on you, just keep it flat. That's much more stable. All right, good. Let's tie. Thank you. Hey, but so what's the key takeaway from that exercise?
Get up.
All right, so head up.
Elbows in, right?
Exactly. No, so what they didn't teach me any new techniques, didn't retrain their strength or anything like that. The only thing I changed was their point of focus from the bottom to the top, right? So the takeaway is by simply changing where they focus, they improve their performance on this exercise. Obviously, you can't just look at a different place on the wrestler and necessarily beat them. But the point is that put your attention where it matters most, and in the proper moment, just like we're talking about with most survivors. All right, so for attention control, all right, it involves four things. First one is knowing what's important now, and a good acronym I like to refer to as WIN. What's important now? All right. If you want to win the match, you have to focus on what's important now. All right. It's very repetitive, but hey, tell your kid, hey, remember to go out there and win. And be like, oh, win. Okay. What's important now? Position, wrist, snap, whatever it is. That's what's important in that moment. So I think that's critical. It's something that's helped me a ton in my wrestling. When I figure that out, don't worry about parterre. Don't worry about the finals. I'm focused on what's important right now. That might be a Gatorade, because I need to get some electrolytes in me. That might be a cool down. It might be stretching. It might be shaking hands, or whatever it is. I know where I need to be and what's coming up, and then what I need to do in that moment to get there. All right. So again, that goes down to knowing how to get there and keep it there, your attention, and shift it as conditions change. So I may be winning the match. I maybe need just to control the center of the mat, keep the guy off me, and stay out of underhooks. But if I get pushed out and now I'm losing, well, now my attention needs to shift, right? I need to start looking for openings. I need to be a little more aggressive. So a mentally agile athlete can quickly shift their attention from one perspective to another. And then the fourth component was knowing how to get back when you get distracted. So I get taken down back to my focus. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but just so you know, there's 4 different areas that you can focus. There's broad external, appropriate response. Broad meaning big picture, external is outwardly, right? So big picture out, I'm looking at the stands, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at all of you right now, I can see everybody. My attention is broad and external. All right, I have good situational awareness. I know there's people at the door. I know if someone's going to try to come in this back door. You know, I know what's going on, and then I'm able to shift quickly. So broad internal, that goes into the goal setting, that planning. I can think big picture. I'm thinking to myself. Right now, I'm not really seeing anybody. I'm thinking about winning the Olympic gold, all the things I got to do in between. So my attention is shifted just now. Next one is narrow internal. So self-regulation, mental rehearsal. I'm in the moment. I'm doing what I need to do in the moment. And then narrow external, I'm locked in on a specific thing. If I'm shooting at the range, I'm locked in on that target. I'm on the center of that target, not just the big square, but the very small circle. I'm locked in on the appropriate thing. If I'm wrestling, I'm focused on that leg. So that footstep, my attention's at the right place at the right time. But you can also have inappropriate responses. You can take in too much information, and it might not be good at taking the information of the crowd when you're wrestling. In fact, it isn't. You can have broad internal, just get stuck in planning. I'm always planning, but I'm never actually doing anything, right? So that's inappropriate response. Rumination, stuck on one mistake, like we were talking about earlier. I can't believe I gave up that takedown in the first period. I can't. Dude, it's third period, man. You still have a chance to win. Move on. And then the last one is narrow external. So the butterfly that flies by every time I start looking at it, I forget what I'm doing. That actually happens to me a lot. But the fact is, I'm trained now, and I know how to get back quickly. I see a butterfly, I refocus, I'm back to here. Good thing there hasn't been butterflies out there. All right, so this goes into the refocus technique. How are you going to recognize when your attention is not in the appropriate place? All right, for some people it might be, for me, if I'm distracted or I'm pissed off, my face gets kind of red. I can feel my claw, my jaw clench a little bit. I know something bad just happened. I'm focusing on the mistake rather than what I need to be focusing on. So when I recognize that, I may be cussing myself out. I may be, doubting myself. Some of those negative factors creep in. That's an indicator. As soon as that happens, I know that I'm going to take a big breath and open up my hand and let it go. I'm going to let it go, and that's going to get me back on track to refocusing. There's a specific technique that I use. I also say a specific phrase to myself. For me, it's turn on the smokes. That's something in college. You probably remember that, but I'd have teammates shouting, "Turn on the smokes!" And that would mean like I turn it up and I smoke my opponent and I win that match. And when I do that, I let go of mistakes. I just go for it, and that's what it's all about. It's just giving it your all and having fun and turning on the smokes. And for me, doing those things gets me back into that confident state where I'm performing at an optimal level. It doesn't guarantee that I'll win, but it'll optimize my performance and give me the best chance possible. Anybody want to share a refocus technique that they might have? Go ahead.
I use that exact technique. I'll yell at a kid, he'll be down a couple of points with 15 seconds left. I'll say, "Fire it up!"
Yep.
And he'll hit his go-to to win the match.
Yep.
I'll tell him 15 seconds, fire it up, and he goes for broke.
Yeah.
That's how we win.
That's awesome. Do you say that for every athlete, or do you just
the ones I work with?
Okay, cool. So they understand you.
They know
You tell them prior, hey, when I say fire it up, go to your sleep single.
Or your go-to.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Each kid has a different move.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sometimes I'll typically like smack my kid in the face.
Yeah.
No, I'm just I'm more of an even field coach. I don't like really joysticking my kids out there on the match because I think it's too late. But I've got like hand signals, so it'll be like something like this, which means go get back to your offense. To my defense, or turn it up a notch. They all know, and they can recognize that because they're hearing so many different voices.
A neat thing that I got actually from college baseball coach is what we do as it's a little toilet. So when the guys came in after a bad at bat, they'd flush it away. They'd actually go over and flush it away. And it's the same thing when a guy doesn't wrestle well or they have a bad practice. Go over and just flush it away.
That's awesome. There's a lot of ways to do it, a lot of different, I haven't really specifically talked about cues, but a certain cue word or phrase. For you is fire it up, for me is turn on the smokes. For you it might be a physical cue, hey, here's the toilet, flush it. What was the other? The other one was get back to your offense. It's a physical cue that your athletes can recognize. I'll tell you, like, when I see coaches come to me with, like, hey, when I do this, this is what you need to do, it gives me a lot of confidence in them. Like, hey, they understand what's going on. I trust them more. I'm willing to work harder, and that's going to improve my performance and just my belief in the program and everything else that we've been talking about. But I think that's a really great technique and tool, and everyone has their own approach, and every athlete might need a little bit of a different cue at certain times, and that's where you as coaches all know your athletes and implement it as needed. So yeah, a little example there. All right, a couple more. We'll wrap up pretty quick. Energy management. Talking about the biggest thing I want to hit here is what happens to your body prior to a match. Who thinks it's bad to get nervous? All right, good. Because I hate when I hear.
That means you're in the finals.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
You're scared or nervous.
Yeah. So let's talk about what it means. What does it mean to get nervous? What's this stuff?
Butterflies, heart rate.
All right, we got butterflies, heart rate. What else? Okay. Not quite.
Sweating, snakes in your ear.
What's this one mean?
Oh, good and evil, right?
No. It's a type of snake.
Thoughts of women.
Viper?
Dry mouth? Kind of snake?
Oh, cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth, right? You get cottonmouth before you wrestle? There you go. All right, who got cottonmouth before they wrestle? Or any of these things? You're sweating buckets. You're sweating a lot. The 3 P's, piss, poop, and puke, right? Hey, that happens. Like, oh man, your athletes can be like in the bathroom right before a match, like, coach, I'm not ready. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Well, hey, you can tell them this is your sympathetic nervous system kicking in. It's actually adrenaline leaving, going to your muscles. It's blood leaving your stomach. Your digestive system's getting rid of any unnecessary waste, so it doesn't have to spend energy on it. So that's why you pee and get rid of everything, so your body has as little energy committed to that as possible, so it can give you the most amount to your muscles and to your mind to survive. It's a natural human instinct that we all have. So if you get nervous prior to a competition, then welcome it, embrace the nerves. And once your athletes understand that, it's going to change their approach to a match. They'll understand why they're in the bathroom, why they got cotton mouth, why they're a little shaky, why their hands are cold. My hands are still freezing before a match. And I'll slap someone's hand like, hey, you're cold, you need to warm up more. Like, trust me, I'm warm. I'm just, it's in my biceps, it's not my hands. So that's where I get. But I'll talk about how to understand where you are and how to kind of mitigate the nerves, because sometimes they get too high and that can cause anxiety. That's something that you want to avoid. You don't want to be anxious where you're overthinking it, where those nerves, that good thing happening in your body turns into negative thoughts. That's the difference. So we'll talk about developing a routine to deal with the nerves, physical and mental routine, and then get yourself to the right energy level. So if you're to the left or to the right of the bell curve, you either need to get more motivation or calm down. And a lot of athletes are here that they got headphones on, chilling, or they need to, hey, move around, bounce around a little bit, or hey, dude, you're bouncing off the walls, calm down. You're bouncing for another 30 minutes. So you got to get your athlete to the right level.
Which end of that do you usually operate in?
I usually am on a little high, so I pull back some, and that's still probably some of the reasons I lose some of my big matches. Is I go out too hard, or I get with that one position. It may make a difference in one passive call. It might not be a huge thing, but it's I've noticed lately, and I've been working on it. I think it's improved my performance. I did it well in a lot of recent tournaments, and I'm still getting better every day. That's the whole point. So breathing is one way to interpret, to kind of deal with your nerves and get your body to that right level, either more or less energy. When everyone to sit up real quick, I want to teach diaphragmatic breathing. So using your diaphragm, not your lungs. So if you have your hand on your stomach, your chest, take a deep breath real quick. Take a couple by yourself. I see a lot of top hands moving, but that's breathing with your lungs. That's not the best way to initiate the relaxation response and to calm your body. The best way is to get your diaphragm. That's where the air comes in, and there's a vagus nerve that runs through it that helps with recovery. So by breathing out of your stomach, it's kind of hard to do, especially standing up. But the closer you can get to diaphragmatic breathing with your diaphragm, the more effective your breathing will become, and the more this kind of stuff will happen. So try it again. Try pushing out your stomach when you breathe out. So that's bottom hand to move. Try to work up to 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out if you can. Work the bottom hand moving. Try that real quick. Sit straight up helps, or stretching it out a little bit. Okay,
I just use this tell me about this thing. And so while you're on the mat, they're talking about additional breathing all the time. We're talking about this, about the breathing. You see a kid come over the floor and just go crazy. Can you teach them? Eat trash, football, whatever. Breathe through the diaphragm, or is that just
No, see, I mean, so there's two types of recovery. You have post-match recovery where you lay down and completely relax and you get to a full state of relaxation. You don't do that in periods. But if you see your kid going shallow, you have them focus more on using their stomach and rhythmic breathing. So in for 2, out for 2. Until they can get that, then go in for 3, out for 3. And we get a 30-second break in Greco, so by the end of my 30-second break, I'm trying to go in 4, out 4. And it might not be perfect diaphragm breathing, but it's pretty close, and it's getting me back to a state way ahead of my opponent. I know that, but it's getting me back to my optimal recovery. So I step back in the center, and I'm pretty fresh, ready to go.
action breathing?
Action, not as much, especially like while running, something like that. I think if you focus more on the rhythm, that's more controllable. But when you're in the center, your coaches have your hand. Yeah, you definitely push your stomach out. And when you do it with athletes, they get around and shake them out. When they're doing that, have them push their stomach out and in. Use their diaphragm. Get the slow, smooth breaths in. It's gonna help them recover.
Is it all through your mouth or your nose?
For me, I can't really breathe in my nose, but it should be in your nose, out your mouth. That's I guess if you can, but it doesn't have to be.
Just to kind of add on that. Now, when you're doing that, and really the reason I got really good at this diaphragm breathing is I started doing more yoga. And the thing that they teach that really has helped me with my kids is that when they're exhaling out to make that like that really forces, and you can do it just on your own, you'll feel your top abs kind of contract a little bit and there's a little bit of tension. And I try to get my kids to do that. You know, we'll do like a hard scramble or a hard position, and then it's like, all right, well, I'll use this. All right, opponent's got an injury, right? Come over, breathe, focus on that, right? Because now internally it starts to get them to refocus on something, and I'll just have it like, all right, 10 seconds in, all right, let's go back out there and get going again.
Cool. So kind of what we were talking about earlier, you have that warm-up routine and readiness level. So this is from the time they wake up in the morning, this is the match time. So this is probably about 4 or 5 hour span. So when you wake up, you're kind of all over the place, you're trying to get some food in. That's another big thing is make sure your athletes are eating in the morning prior to competition. I still see senior athletes wrestling at different world level tournaments, skipping breakfast. Well, I'm not hungry. Me too. You got to understand that's part of your routine. You need to eat. So this is that time to do that. And then you have that build-up routine. By the time you get to the arena, you got your warm-up in. Now you're 20 minutes out, you're 5 minutes out, you're starting. So you get to the optimal level of performance. And just by understanding that it's going to be all over the place, you're going to walk in, you're going to feel excited, and you're going to feel dead tired. That's part of the deal for high-level performance. All right, last thing is imagery. We can, again, this can be used to improve performance for just both technical ability, so you're learning skills, but it can also help with execution of those skills in matches. So seeing yourself doing it. I'll go faster these last couple slides. But I like to show this one, that this research here shows that with no practice between an initial test and a retest, very little skill improvement. With just mental practice, you have some. With just physical practice, you have a little bit better. but with physical and mental practice together, with imagery, then you have the highest performance levels. That makes sense. Pretty straightforward, pretty common sense, but so you don't have time to do a workout. You can visualize yourself drilling moves. You can improve your skill set, right? You're not going to do as good as getting out there and wrestling, or definitely not as good as wrestling and doing the imagery, but understanding the value of when to use it is what's key.
What is your way of doing that? What is your way of doing that?
So there's a couple different ways for skill development. I like to visualize the move over and over, and I'll cover that, but you can visualize the move at the speed of execution. Think through it, and basically you make your increasing neurological connections by doing that. Neurons fire the same exact way as actually physically executing. So that's one way to do it. And then I also visualize the whole tournament from start to finish. I kick Murphy's law in the butt because I think everything through. What might go wrong, how I can overcome that. I plan for contingencies, and then I tend to have pretty high level successful performance consistently. So kind of got into that. Your brain, so I talked a little about the neurons, and that's in your brain, and that's how the brain-muscle connection works. So when you do a move, you're skiing downhill, this is an example of a downhill skier, your muscles fire in a very certain specific ways, and your neurons also fire in a certain pathway. What this study was electrodes hooked up to his leg, let him sit down in the comfortable position, and visualize the same exact run that he does for his race. And the results showed that the neurons fired in the same exact pattern as physically doing it. So there was no difference in the neurological activity between the vivid imagery session and the actual session. And here's a snapshot of kind of what's going on in different areas of the brain that are highlighted between the physical execution and the imagery. So what does that mean for us as athletes? Huh?
You can rehearse it.
You can rehearse it. You can get more reps in. You can get 10,000 hours of practice in less time than it usually takes, right? That's why you can see people rise to the top very quickly. I think that was a big key in my success coming into the Greco scene is I used the heck out of imagery because I was 10 years behind everybody. You know, I started Greco late and it helped me catch up, and it's helping me get ahead now. I think there's also physical limitations to your body. You can only do 2 or 3 hours of wrestling at a time. Usually, as you get older, it's like an hour, 45 minutes. But your body has physical limitations, but your mind, it doesn't. So when you're done with that, you can keep doing those drills, keep doing them, and get the maximum reps that you can get in every day. All right, so here's some aspects of imagery. I'd like to spend a little more time practicing them and showing you some ways to teach it, but understand that there's aspects such as control and vividness, perspective, so first person imagery or third person, so bird eye view or by visualizing actually doing the move. Third person, the bird eye view is shown to be more effective for planning, for visualizing a performance perhaps, or the entire day at the arena. But once you get down to the execution stuff, where you're learning a move, first person is better. Why? Because you're building neurons, right? It should be exactly how it should look and feel. And that's another thing you want to hit is all the, I'll skip this, but the sensory experiences. What you see, you should build in something like the smell, what you hear, the feeling, your opponent. You feel a singlet, you can hear him breathing. You're taking them down, you hear that wind, you hear them gasp for air, you hear their crowd go wild. That's all part of that sensory experience that vivid imagery needs to have. And the more specific you are, the better your results are going to be. So if you build that into your practice, it's going to improve performance.
How often do you do that? Like I've turned the lights out and everybody lay down and how often do you
So I mean, you can do it daily. I mean, there's not really a set number, but I'd say it's more. I do a couple guided imagery sessions, and I have an imagery script on my computer that I had made for me for the Olympic trials. It taught me through preparing, going to Carver Hawkeye Arena, to my warm-up session, to who I had, to my first match, and transitioning to the next match. And I listened to that on the way into practice. I had it in my car, and so that was one way I did it. And that kind of guided me through imagery. I've also been through guided imagery sessions by coaches and sports psychology consultants. And And so that teaches them the skill, but then once they learn the skill, I'd say encourage them to do it daily. But every day you're not going to bring them to shut the lights out. And that's kind of where like the hippie stuff, close your eyes, you're on the beach, relax. And that's some of the stigma that comes with sports psychology that, oh, I don't need to do that, it's hippie, or that's, you know, something's wrong with me if I train psychology, right? Has anyone ever said that? Why would you do that? Nothing's wrong with me. So that's a lot of senior athletes, at least, or the higher level you go, they're very, very reluctant to train these skills. Just because they think it's a weakness, but it really isn't, right? These are skills just like a headlock or a gun wrench. All right, so we talked about routines, learning skill sequence, recreating an experience. So learning from a day, from a tournament, going through, and that's when I went back into my log and I'm writing down, trying to visualize what happened, so very specifically. But the more you practice it, the more vivid you can be, the longer you can keep that experience detailed, and you can also do it to increase motivation and in a lot of ways. So you got to be able to see what happens before you try them out most of the time. All right, so yeah, I'm not going to play the script. It's kind of long, but built in all those things into that script, and it helped me out big time. So last two slides. This is the ABCs. An easy way to think about it. Something you can tell your team, hey, remember the ABCs: your attention, your body, and your confidence or cues. What you're saying to yourself. So, and again, attention, when, right, in the right moment. Segmenting, using cues, routines, knowing your energy levels, that arousal control, just like the video showed, using breathing to get it back intact, and then your thoughts. You have that power of perception. You can control that. And the capstone for all this is the peak performance plan. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes, think through what skills we just went over and where they would go. This is before a competition. This is during a wrestling match or a competition. This is after that match. So what kind of skills did we talk about? Talk amongst yourselves, go like groups of 3 or 4, and then from goal setting to using keywords to refocus techniques, routines, imagery. Have a quick discussion, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, let's wrap it up. What do y'all think for phase 1? So well before an event. This is a month out, 2 months out, whatever. Well before. Goal setting. Imagery maybe. All right, how about right before? This is right before the match. That time those breathing routines.
Imagery, visualization, I think that's what I say.
Okay. All right, and then during it, what's going on there?
Self-talk.
Maybe self-talk, not a whole lot, right? The refocus technique. Use some keywords. That's pretty much it. But as little as possible to instinctual execution. And then afterwards is that recovery, using imagery, performance evaluation, and the reset for the next match. That concludes my presentation. Sorry I went long. Thank you for your time.